Did you know that river otters have been observed engaging in behavior so complex and controversial that scientists spent decades debating whether to even publish their findings? What you're about to learn might completely change how you see one of nature's most beloved animals. But before we dive into the deep end, let me be clear. Understanding animal behavior, even the disturbing parts, is crucial for conservation and coexistence. So let's explore the real science behind river otters, separating myth from reality, and discovering what these fascinating creatures can teach us about nature itself. River otters belong to the family Mustelidae, which includes weasels, badgers, and wolverines. This family is known for producing some of nature's most tenacious and resourceful predators. But otters occupy a special place in our hearts and ecosystems. There are 13 species of otters worldwide, ranging from the giant otters of South America to the sea otters of the Pacific coast. Today, we're focusing primarily on North American river otters and sea otters, two species that have captured scientific attention for very different reasons. Let's start with something most people don't know. River otters are actually relatively new success stories in conservation. In the early 1900s, these animals were nearly extinct across much of North America due to fur trapping and habitat loss. Their pelts were so valuable that entire populations were wiped out from states like Colorado, Indiana, and Pennsylvania. But here's where the story gets inspiring. Through dedicated conservation efforts starting in the 1970s, river otters have made a remarkable comeback. Reintroduction programs have successfully restored populations in over 20 states, and as of 2025, river otters are now classified as a species of least concern by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. This is a genuine conservation victory worth celebrating. But scientists didn't expect what they found next when they began studying reintroduced populations more closely. As otter numbers recovered and researchers could observe them more extensively, they discovered behavioral patterns that challenged our understanding of these animals. River otters are incredibly intelligent, playful, and social, but they also display behaviors that can seem shockingly aggressive or unusual when viewed through a human lens. This is where we need to separate sensationalism from science. Let's talk about otter development and social structure, because understanding their life cycle is key to understanding their behavior. Female river otters give birth to 1 to 6 pups, typically 2 or 3, after a gestation period that can last anywhere from 2 to 12 months due to delayed implantation. This is a survival adaptation that allows females to time births for optimal environmental conditions. The pups are born blind, toothless, and completely dependent on their mother. For the first 8 to 10 weeks, they remain in the den, nursing and developing. Here's something fascinating. Otter mothers are among the most dedicated parents in the animal kingdom. They teach their young to swim, something that doesn't come naturally to otter pups. Can you imagine? An aquatic mammal that has to learn to swim. Mothers will literally drag reluctant pups into the water, supporting them as they learn to paddle and dive. This teaching period lasts several months, during which mothers also demonstrate hunting techniques, showing pups how to catch fish, crayfish, and other prey. The bond between mother and offspring is strong, lasting anywhere from 8 months to over a year. But here's where the story gets more complex. Male river otters typically play no role in raising young. In fact, adult males can be aggressive toward pups, especially if those pups aren't their own. This isn't unique to otters. Many mammalian species show similar patterns. In some cases, males have been observed killing unrelated young, a behavior called infanticide that exists across numerous species, from lions to dolphins to primates. Scientists believe this behavior evolved because eliminating another male's offspring can bring females back into breeding condition sooner, giving the infanticidal male a reproductive advantage. Now, I know this sounds harsh, but most people have this completely wrong when it comes to understanding animal behavior. We cannot apply human morality to wild animals. These behaviors evolved over millions of years as survival strategies, not conscious choices. River otters don't have a concept of right or wrong. They have instincts shaped by evolutionary pressures. Understanding this doesn't make the behaviors less disturbing to witness, but it does help us appreciate the complexity of natural systems. If you're learning something new about these incredible animals, go ahead and hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what other animals you'd like to learn about. Your engagement helps this channel grow and allows us to create more educational content about the natural world. Let's shift gears and talk about sea otters, because this is where some of the most controversial observations have been made. Sea otters are a different species from river otters, living exclusively in marine environments along the Pacific coast. They're the smallest marine mammal, weighing between 45 and 90 pounds, and they're absolutely crucial to their ecosystems. Sea otters are what scientists call a keystone species, meaning their presence dramatically affects the entire ecosystem around them. Here's why they matter so much. Sea otters feed primarily on sea urchins, crabs, clams, and other invertebrates. In areas where sea otters were hunted to near extinction, sea urchin populations exploded, creating what scientists call urchin barrens. These are underwater deserts where urchins have devoured all the kelp, eliminating the foundation of the entire ecosystem. When sea otters returned to these areas, either through natural recolonization or reintroduction programs, the kelp forests recovered within years. This cascade effect demonstrates how a single species can maintain the health of an entire habitat. As of 2025, sea otter populations have recovered to approximately 150,000 individuals, up from fewer than 2,000 in the early 1900s. This is another remarkable conservation success. But scientists didn't expect what they found next when studying sea otter behavior in recovering populations. In the 1990s and early 2000s, researchers began documenting unusual mating behaviors in male sea otters, particularly in areas where populations were recovering and competition for mates was intense. Male sea otters are significantly larger than females, weighing up to 90 pounds compared to females at around 60 pounds. During mating, males grasp females by biting their nose, which can cause visible scarring. In some cases, this mating behavior can be extremely aggressive, lasting for hours and occasionally resulting in the female's death, particularly if mating occurs in rough water where the female cannot surface to breathe. Even more troubling to researchers were observations of male sea otters attempting to mate with other species, including harbor seal pups. Between 1998 and 2024, scientists documented multiple cases of male sea otters engaging in what's called interspecific sexual behavior with young seals, sometimes resulting in the seal's death. A landmark study published in 2010 by researchers at the Monterey Bay Aquarium documented these interactions in detail, noting that in some cases, male otters continued the behavior even after the seal pup had died. Now, before we go further, here's where the story gets even stranger, and we need to talk about why this happens. Scientists have proposed several hypotheses. One leading theory suggests that in areas where female sea otters are scarce due to skewed sex ratios in recovering populations, young male otters with high hormone levels and limited mating opportunities may redirect their mating behavior toward inappropriate targets. Seal pups are roughly the same size as female sea otters and may trigger mating instincts in inexperienced or desperate males. Another hypothesis involves what scientists call misdirected play behavior. Young male otters engage in rough and tumble play that can escalate into something more harmful, especially when directed at other species. Some researchers have also noted that these behaviors are more commonly observed in areas with high human disturbance, suggesting that environmental stress might play a role. It's crucial to understand that these behaviors, while documented, are not representative of all sea otters or even most sea otters. They appear to be relatively rare events that occur under specific circumstances, primarily involving young adult males in populations with unusual demographic structures. As sea otter populations continue to stabilize and sex ratios normalize, researchers have noted that some of these more extreme behaviors appear to be decreasing in frequency. Here's what's really important. Discussing these behaviors isn't about demonizing otters. It's about understanding the full complexity of animal behavior and recognizing that nature doesn't operate according to human values. Every species, including our own, has individuals that engage in behaviors we might find disturbing. The difference is that wild animals lack the cognitive capacity for moral reasoning that humans possess. They're operating on instinct, hormones, and learned behaviors shaped by their environment and evolutionary history. Let's talk about what river otters and sea otters are really like in their day-to-day lives. Because there's so much more to these animals than controversial behaviors. River otters are incredibly playful, a trait that serves important developmental and social functions. They're often observed sliding down muddy or snowy banks repeatedly, seemingly just for fun. Scientists believe this play behavior helps young otters develop coordination, strength, and problem-solving skills. It also reinforces social bonds within family groups. Otters are remarkably intelligent. They're one of the few mammals known to use tools. Sea otters famously use rocks to crack open shellfish, placing the rock on their chest while floating on their back and smashing the shell against it. Some individual otters have been observed keeping a favorite rock tucked in a fold of skin under their forearm, carrying it with them like a treasured tool. Research published in 2023 showed that sea otters can learn new tool use techniques by watching other otters, demonstrating cultural transmission of knowledge. River otters also show impressive cognitive abilities. They have excellent memory and can remember the locations of productive fishing spots, returning to them seasonally. They communicate through a complex system of vocalizations, including chirps, whistles, growls, and screams, each conveying different information. Mothers and pups maintain contact through specific calls, and researchers have identified distinct regional dialects in otter vocalizations, suggesting learned communication patterns passed down through generations. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating. Recent research from 2024 and 2025 has revealed new insights into otter social structures. River otters were long thought to be primarily solitary outside of mothers with pups. But long-term studies using GPS tracking and camera traps have shown that otters maintain complex social networks. Males often form bachelor groups that hunt and travel together, while females with pups may form loose associations, sharing information about food sources and potential dangers. These social bonds can last for years, challenging our previous understanding of otter social organization. One of the most remarkable recent discoveries involves otter communication and its sophistication. A study published in early 2025 by researchers at the University of Exeter analyzed thousands of hours of otter vocalizations and found that river otters use specific call sequences that function almost like sentences, combining different sounds to convey complex information. For example, otters have distinct alarm calls for aerial predators, like eagles, versus terrestrial predators, like coyotes, allowing family members to respond appropriately. They also have specific calls that indicate food discovery, with variations that seem to communicate the type and quantity of food found. Let's talk about otter ecology and their role in freshwater ecosystems, because this is where otters truly shine as environmental indicators. River otters are what scientists call an umbrella species. Protecting otters and their habitat automatically protects countless other species that share their ecosystem. Otters require clean water with abundant fish populations, intact riparian vegetation, and minimal human disturbance. When otter populations thrive, it indicates a healthy, functioning ecosystem. Otters are also top predators in freshwater environments, meaning they help regulate prey populations and maintain ecosystem balance. By feeding on fish, crayfish, amphibians, and aquatic invertebrates, otters prevent any single prey species from becoming too abundant and disrupting the ecosystem. Research from 2024 showed that rivers with healthy otter populations have greater biodiversity overall compared to similar rivers without otters, demonstrating their importance as ecosystem engineers. Here's something that might surprise you. Otters are also helping scientists monitor water quality and environmental contaminants. Because otters are top predators that accumulate toxins from their prey, analyzing otter tissue samples and scat provides valuable information about pollution levels in waterways. Studies conducted in 2025 found that otters in urban watersheds show elevated levels of microplastics, pharmaceutical compounds, and heavy metals, serving as early warning indicators of environmental problems that could eventually affect human populations. Now let's address the conservation challenges otters still face, because despite their recovery, these animals aren't out of danger. Habitat loss remains a significant threat, particularly as human development continues to encroach on riparian corridors. Otters need large territories. A single river otter may range over 10 to 30 miles of waterway. Fragmentation of these corridors by dams, roads, and development can isolate populations, reducing genetic diversity and limiting recolonization of suitable habitat. Road mortality is another major threat. Otters frequently travel overland between water bodies, and vehicle strikes kill hundreds of otters annually in North America. Some states have begun installing wildlife crossing structures specifically designed to help otters and other semi-aquatic mammals safely cross roads, with promising early results. A project in California that installed otter-friendly culverts under a major highway reduced otter road deaths by over 70% in the first 3 years. Climate change is emerging as a new concern for both river otters and sea otters. For sea otters, warming ocean temperatures are affecting the distribution and abundance of their prey species. Kelp forests, which sea otters depend on for both food and shelter, are being impacted by marine heat waves that have become more frequent and severe. In 2024, a major marine heat wave along the Pacific Northwest coast led to significant kelp die-offs, forcing sea otters to expand their foraging ranges and increasing competition for remaining resources. For river otters, climate change affects freshwater ecosystems through altered precipitation patterns, increased flooding and drought cycles, and changes in water temperature. Warmer water holds less oxygen and can stress fish populations, reducing food availability for otters. Some research suggests that otters may need to shift their ranges northward or to higher elevations as their current habitats become less suitable. But this depends on the availability of connected corridors that allow such movements. But here's some genuinely good news. Conservation efforts for otters have been remarkably successful, and they're accelerating. As of 2025, multiple organizations are working on otter conservation across North America. The International Otter Survival Fund, Defenders of Wildlife, and numerous state wildlife agencies are collaborating on research, habitat restoration, and public education. Citizen science programs are engaging thousands of volunteers in monitoring otter populations through scat surveys, camera trap networks, and sighting reports. One particularly exciting development is the use of environmental DNA, or eDNA, to monitor otter populations. Scientists can now detect otter presence by analyzing water samples for traces of otter DNA shed through scat, urine, and skin cells. This non-invasive technique allows researchers to monitor otters across large areas without disturbing them, providing unprecedented data on population distribution and habitat use. Studies using eDNA in 2025 have discovered otter populations in watersheds where they weren't previously known to exist, suggesting their recovery is even more extensive than traditional surveys indicated. There's also growing recognition of the importance of urban waterways for otter conservation. Cities like Seattle, Portland, and Chicago have documented river otters using urban streams and rivers, demonstrating that otters can adapt to human-modified landscapes if water quality is adequate and some natural vegetation remains. Urban otter populations provide opportunities for people to connect with wildlife and support conservation, and they serve as powerful indicators that river restoration efforts are working. Let's talk about what you can do to support otter conservation, because individual actions really do matter. First, support clean water initiatives in your community, reducing pollution, protecting wetlands, and restoring riparian vegetation. All benefit otters and countless other species. If you live near otter habitat, be mindful of pets, as dogs can disturb otters, especially mothers with pups. Observe otters from a respectful distance using binoculars rather than approaching them, and never feed wild otters, as this can habituate them to humans and create dangerous situations. You can also support organizations working on otter conservation through donations or volunteer work. Participating in citizen science projects like river monitoring programs or wildlife camera surveys provides valuable data to researchers. And perhaps most importantly, share accurate information about otters and other wildlife. Combat sensationalized or misleading content with science-based facts. Understanding and appreciating wildlife, even the behaviors we find uncomfortable, is essential for effective conservation. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. Otters, like all wild animals, are products of millions of years of evolution. They're neither heroes nor villains. They're survivors, perfectly adapted to their ecological niches. The behaviors that humans find disturbing exist in nature for evolutionary reasons we're still working to fully understand. By studying these behaviors objectively, without anthropomorphizing or demonizing the animals involved, we gain deeper insights into ecology, evolution, and animal cognition. The story of otter conservation is ultimately a story of hope. These animals came back from the brink of extinction through human effort and dedication. Their recovery demonstrates that when we prioritize conservation, restore habitats, and protect wildlife, ecosystems can heal. Every river otter you might glimpse sliding down a bank, or every sea otter you watch cracking open a clam, represents a conservation success story decades in the making. If you enjoyed learning about the real science behind these fascinating animals, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. Drop a comment and let me know what animal you'd like to learn about next. Should we explore the surprising intelligence of crows, the bizarre reproductive strategies of deep-sea anglerfish, or maybe the incredible comeback story of the American bison? Your suggestions help shape this channel's content. Otters remind us that nature is complex, sometimes uncomfortable, but always worth understanding and protecting. They're indicators of ecosystem health, keystone species that shape their environments, and survivors who've overcome tremendous odds. By learning about them, respecting them, and supporting their conservation, we're not just helping otters, we're protecting the clean water, healthy ecosystems, and biodiversity that all life, including humans, depends on. Thank you for watching, and remember, the more we understand about the natural world, the better equipped we are to protect it. See you in the next video.